All right, guys, we've got some great Nintendo Switch 2 news and rumors, details, and things to go over. So let's go ahead and jump right into it here. Shout outs to my man Stealth as he's covering this, but it seems like something that I followed up on here before on the channel. We had a video talking about this, but the Nintendo Switch 2 might have done better than the 5 million units that Nintendo said. That wasn't accurate overall. We were all thinking, man, 5 million units, that's pretty good. Obviously, that's the best or fastest selling system in that time period. We already know that the Nintendo Switch 2 sold 3.5 million in the first 4 days. That's the fastest selling system ever, but it seems like things are even higher than what we got with another analyst who predicted 5.4 million for the first month of the Nintendo Switch 2, because Toyo analyst Hideki Yatsuda, who's been an analyst for a very long time at this point, and a UBS analyst have both estimated that the Nintendo Switch 2 has sold actually over 6 million units after the first month. Now, Mr. Yatsuda predicts that the Nintendo Switch 2 will sell around 20 million units at the fiscal year, and while the other analyst predicts that it'll be around 18 million, and both of them do see that there could be some scarcity with the Nintendo Switch 2 till spring 2026. Now, the thing about this, guys, is that Nintendo is producing a lot of these units at record pace. The manufacturing for the Switch 2, the pipeline that they have going for it is incredible. We haven't really seen a system, especially a high demand system, put out this many units in this short amount of time. Usually it'll take some time before you can get that amount of units. In comparison, if you take a look at like the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5, they were not able to produce 6 million units in 1 month, even with the demand and knowing that the demand would be there when it comes down to it. Now with the PS5 is a little bit of a different scenario because of the COVID situation, but with the PS4, not so much, and they weren't able to produce that much. So to see that the Nintendo Switch was able to hit these, or if it hits those type of numbers, that's incredibly impressive overall, because we know that there's been regular restocks since the launch back on June 5th. I've seen at least 3 to 4 separate restocks. So they're restocking it almost every single week. There are big batches kind of coming in, and those are selling through overall. In Japan, it's absolutely insane when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2. Whatever units they get, those units are selling as fast as possible. In the US, you can see it in some places, but a lot of times you have to kind of drive around depending on where you are. But there are numerous different sellouts here in the US depending on what area you're in. And obviously if you're in Europe or Australia or different places, it's kind of spotty in terms of how it's doing in other places. But overall, it's selling very, very good in most regions. Asian region doing very good, obviously. You look at the US doing incredibly well. In Europe, some places really good. France, places like that. Spain doing really, really good. And then other places maybe not quite as good as what we've seen with other countries. But overall, it's still selling incredibly well. So this is pretty much the best case scenario when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 and everything. This is exactly what you want to see with this, and the fact that we have analysts that are potentially getting some information in terms of what they know that's well above that 5 million number, because now we have 3 total analysts, and if you count David Ahmed, all of them are saying that the Nintendo Switch 2 did better than 5 million within the first 3-4 weeks on the market. This is all within June. This is not even extending to July now at this point, but this is just within June. They're all stating that it was above that. So I think that they definitely have some information or some sources out there that's showing them that, yeah, it's doing a bit better than even what we thought it could do overall. I was going to be happy with, hey, look, if they can sell around 4 million or so in the first month, that would be really good, considering that that would still be one of the best of all time. But the fact that we're looking at probably 5.4 to 6 million units plus in that time period, that is even better than probably what anybody would have thought overall, and definitely a good sign when it comes to getting more developers to hop on and getting the actual funding needed to put games out on the Nintendo Switch 2, because you need to have that huge install base in order to attract the developers to get that, which we're going to see. There's going to be a lot more announcements when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2. So what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comment section. But before we get into the next topic, please make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are someone new. click that notification bell and hit that like button as well if you're enjoying the video, and let me know where you think the Nintendo Switch 2 will end up, maybe at the end of the year when it comes to sales overall. Let's go ahead and jump into the next big topic here when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2 news, and that is a pretty interesting rumor when it comes to a Switch 2 Direct. Switch 2's only been out for about a month now at this point, and people are wondering what's the next big Nintendo Direct. We had multiple big Directs this year already in terms of announcements and different things, but we still need to find out what's coming next. We need some of the dates for games like Metroid Prime 4, for example, Splatoon Raiders, that needs more information. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment as well. So I'm pretty sure Nintendo will have a Direct to get those detailed, because some of those games are absolutely going to be coming within the next month or so. So there is a new rumor. Shout outs to my man Stealth once again. He talked about Mr. John Harker, who has leaked Ubisoft games in the past, says that it shouldn't be too much longer till we get the next Nintendo Direct. This was over on Reset Era, and he was responding to a comment saying, I'm kind of itching for a Direct. I have a Switch 2 but haven't opened it yet. I need to know what's coming out and soon, or I'll just return it. And he says, shouldn't be too long, which is interesting because Nintendo actually laid out all the games that are going to be coming out this year for 2025. They laid that all out, so not sure why you'd buy one and you're saying I need to know what's coming out when they already talked about everything that's coming out. Now with the Direct, I think it's essentially going to show off some more release dates for the game. So you're going to find out when Metroid Prime 4 is launching. You're going to find out when Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is launching. You're going to find out when games like Kirby Air Riders is launching. All of that stuff, which has already been announced and is set for 2025, I think we're going to find out about all of that when it comes down to it. Splatoon Raiders, that's another game that we need to find out more about. That's probably going to be here this year. We'll probably get some more surprise announcements, maybe like a Metroid Prime 2, Metroid Prime 3, and all of that. So I do think that a Nintendo Direct is coming. The interesting thing, though, is that when is that Direct coming? Like exactly when? Because if you look at it, we have a Pokemon Direct that's happening on July 22nd. So would it be before that? We have Donkey Kong Bonanza that's coming out on July 17th. So that's just essentially next week as of the time that I'm recording. So will we have a Nintendo Direct coming up in this upcoming week? Or will it be the week after the Pokemon Direct? A lot of people feel that it won't be on the same week. I mean, it could be Bonanza week. That can definitely happen, that one, but that'd be kind of weird. But that can also happen as well. So it looks like sometime in July we're going to be getting something. We have also heard beat 'em ups. He also talked about how there's going to be a July Direct as well and gave a few different games that we could see. So we'll see what happens overall when it comes to this Nintendo Direct type of thing that's happening. But if you really want to know in terms of what's coming out for the year, Nintendo did talk about all of that in the Nintendo Switch 2 April Direct. They actually went over all the different games that's going to be coming out this year. Donkey Kong Bonanza obviously coming out very soon here on July 17th. So what do you guys think about the Nintendo Direct rumors? When do you think it could happen? Let me know in the comment section. Now we're going to move on to a very interesting topic here with Virtuos, who's one of the biggest port studios, support studios out there. They've worked on heavy hitters such as Horizon Zero Dawn, LA Noire, Dark Souls Remastered, Astral Chain, Cyberpunk 2077, Outriders, Call of Duty, Hogwarts Legacy, The Elder Scrolls, and more. And in a recent interview with WCCF Tech, they actually talked about the Nintendo Switch 2, its capabilities, what excites them, and how do they think it's going to do when it comes to the overall market in comparison to Switch 1. And the interesting thing is that one of the people interviewed stated that they feel that it's going to surpass the Nintendo Switch 1 in popularity and sales because of the type of system that it is. But another thing that they did is they clearly laid out where they feel power-wise the system is. They said GPU-wise, it is a bit below the Xbox Series S, but it has DLSS to kind of make up for that. And CPU-wise, it's a little bit above the PlayStation 4 as well. So we know now for sure, 100%, it's obviously not just the same as the PlayStation 4, which some people still to this day try to push online that it is. It's above the PlayStation 4. It has obviously a different architecture when it comes to the innards of the system. It's got DLSS. It's got some other things in there when it comes to efficiency and certain stuff that's going to put it above what we saw with PS4 and obviously the Xbox One. That's pretty clear at this point, but it was interesting to hear them talk about it in terms of what they like about the system, the build quality, porting games over. They actually even detailed a lot of that. So they talked about how even if you're shipping a game on Xbox Series S and 60 FPS, you shouldn't have a problem getting that ported over to the Nintendo Switch 2. They also talked about how if it's a 30 FPS game, definitely going to need some optimization because of CPU stuff, because the Xbox Series S is definitely better CPU wise when it comes to that versus the Switch 2. So I do think it was a very interesting interview. Make sure you guys check it out. I'll have a link for you guys because they go over a number of different things in terms of the gaming, the handheld gaming market, how the Nintendo Switch 2 kind of improves on that. One of them was actually not so surprised that Nintendo Switch 2 blew up in sales when it comes to the first 4 days becoming the fastest selling system of all time. But then another one said, oh, well, wait a minute, I didn't expect that at all. So it was very interesting read when it comes down to the software and the different types of games and what they like. And this is essentially, once again, a third-party support studio. They are employed by a number of different publishers out there to come in and help when it comes to their games. Virtuos helped out on a ton of different Nintendo Switch 1 games, so expect them to be a major player on the Nintendo Switch 2 overall. So if you want to hear a little bit more about some of the leads of the studio and what makes them tick and what they like or not, check out that full interview because there was a lot of interesting information and just thoughts when it comes to developers and what they think about the platform and kind of how it was a complete 180, in my opinion at least, compared to what we kind of saw with the Nintendo Switch 1, where Virtuos, they were there near the beginning with certain stuff, LA Noire and things like that. But I think that the confidence that the Nintendo Switch 2 has, it is that next major step. It's very easy to identify. Oh, Switch 1, okay, now this is Switch 2. That is so important overall, along with the backwards compatibility, which they discussed as well a bit. So make sure you guys check out that full interview. But what do you guys think about what they had to say when it comes to the power, in addition to what they had to say about the system as well? Let me know in the comment section. But now we're gonna move on to the next topic here, and that's gonna be discussing the VRR situation on the Nintendo Switch 2. So for those who don't know, or if you don't remember what happened, the Nintendo Switch 2 supports VRR, which stands for variable refresh rate. This is a really cool tool because what it does is that it helps smooth out some games. Sometimes if there's some irregular frame rate drops and stuff like that, it can help smooth that out. Now, the Nintendo Switch 2 originally was supposed to have support for VRR on the Nintendo Switch 2 screen itself, and also when you dock it and it plays on your TV. If your TV supports VRR, it's supposed to say, okay, no problem. But a little bit before the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, they removed that little thing saying, hey, supports VRR. They removed it, and Digital Foundry caught that. So people were wondering, what's going on? Like, it doesn't support it anymore? Why would they have that in the first place? But now we know that the Nintendo Switch 2 dock does support VRR, even though it doesn't work right now. So it does seem like later in the future, it could be updated to work properly. Now, for those who are wondering, well, why not just have it right away? Well, there could be some issues with that. There could be some problems where it's not working through certain sound bars, or if it's not connected directly, or certain games could be malfunctioning. There could be some type of problem. I'll give you guys another example here. The PlayStation 5, that didn't support VRR at launch. That took, I think, like a couple years or so. It definitely wasn't right there at launch. It did take a little bit of time for them to implement that and get that right on PlayStation 5. So there could be a similar scenario here with the Nintendo Switch 2 overall. But it was very interesting how they actually got this when it comes down to it. The Verge actually tested this, and it all came down to using the Steam Deck. So what happened was that they used a female to male USB-C extension cable, and when they did that and plugged it in, it supported VRR. It all worked there. So it was pretty interesting because with their other tests with other handheld portable PCs and all that, that dock is supporting it. So I do think eventually Nintendo will release some type of update, or they'll do something to where they get VRR working properly. But I'm guessing that in their test, they felt that maybe it'd be ready at launch, and it was not. So they had to remove that warning, because there's no way that they would have that there and they would say that it does that, then all of a sudden say, oh, we got to pull it. Like, oh, never supported at all. We just made that up. Like, I don't think that was the case, because clearly it's not, because the doc says that it supports it, because they tested it and it supports it. So something went wrong when it comes to when they were testing, or how it would work, or if there was issues. Something definitely happened to where they had to disable it, or they had to do something, because there's no way they would have done all that when it comes to the preparation with the Nintendo Switch 2. Like, they have to say that it has it, but then it never had it at all in the first place. So I'm thinking that there's going to be some type of update to get that going in the future. That would definitely be awesome too, because, you know, if you look at the Nintendo Switch 2, a lot of games could probably use that VRR frame rate in the future. So I'm hoping that that does get through and that does happen. But what do you guys think overall when it comes to all the different topics that we discussed here with the Nintendo Switch 2? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG news and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.